Hockey content in July! Woohoo! As I am recording this video, there are 73 days left until the beginning of the 2025-26 NHL season. That's a lot of days. As we approach the start of the season, it's always fun, to throw out your predictions of what teams are going to make the playoffs, who's going to win what individual award, and inevitably, who's going to win the Stanley Cup. Normally, you make those predictions around, start of training camp, beginning of preseason, before the actual games that matter start. I'm going to make those predictions now, way too early, and then at the end of the season we can all look back on this and either laugh at how wrong I was, or you can applaud me for how smart and correct I was, which I think is a more likely option. So I've put together the standings for all four divisions in the National Hockey League, my predictions of how those standings are going to end up, which teams are going to make the playoffs, which team will inevitably capture the Stanley Cup, a couple of individual awards predictions in there as well, and then some 100% accurate, definitely going to happen storylines that I think will play out over the course of the season. And when I say storylines, these aren't exactly tangible things that we can use statistics to guess. I guess some of them are, but they're more so things that could happen, because for me at least, part of the fun of watching a hockey season is the headlines that come out, the off-ice stories that are just as important to the games and crazy as the things that happen during the game. My name is Liam, my friends call me Hammer, and join me as I try to predict the 2025-26 NHL season way too far in advance. If you agree with any of my predictions, be sure to leave a like on the video. If you disagree, let me know down in the comments below with your predictions, but just know that if you disagree with me, you're just gonna look silly. So here we have my super professional, well-made graphic of the divisional standings that I definitely didn't just throw together in a Google Doc. I'm not going to go through each team individually because we'd be here all day, but I'll point out some question marks that you may have. Looking at the Pacific Division, I've got the LA Kings on top. I think they're finally ready to break through. They've been getting better and better each season. They, collapse in the first round after running up against the Edmonton Oilers every year, which I think is going to happen again this time. But I do think in the regular season, the Kings are just going to run the table in the Pacific. I'm not saying they're going to be clear favorites in that division. Vegas is probably going to give them a run for their money, but I do think the LA Kings are going to come out on top out there. The Calgary Flames I have so far down the list. I just don't see Calgary putting it together. They made certain strides last year, but compared to some of the things that are happening within their division, some of the changes that are happening in the Western Conference and the National Hockey League as a whole, I don't know if they're doing enough to keep up with those changes to justify putting them even in a wild card spot. Same thing goes for the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks, it is no secret, have sucked over the last few seasons. Just plain outright sucked. And you know what? Ducks fans, love you. You guys have maybe the best jerseys in the league. I don't think it's getting any better for you this year. In fact, I think it's going to get a little worse. But Sharks fans, I like you guys. San Jose Sharks are doing everything right. They're doing a rebuild as you're supposed to do a rebuild. They're not rushing it. They're collecting good young talent. They're bringing in healthy veterans to grow that young talent. And I think maybe not this year, but over the next 2 to 3 years, the Sharks are going to be a dangerous team to go up against. Over in the Central Division, I don't know if there's necessarily any question marks there from people, except for maybe the Dallas Stars dropping down to a wild card spot. Listen, the Stars are a good team, there's no doubt about it, and I have no doubt of them making the playoffs. Those three teams above them are just simply better than them. I don't know, do I need to explain anything in the Metro Division? The Rangers not making the playoffs, I don't see it. Again, I think the Rangers still have a lot to sort out, especially in their locker room. They made a lot of big trades last year to try and fix some of the chemistry, move out the more toxic pieces, I guess, but I just don't see it from the Rangers this year. And then over in the Atlantic Division, again, don't know if there's any super surprises there other than Tampa's so far down the list. And for Lightning fans watching that might take exception to that, there's a very simple answer. Your time has come. The Tampa Bay Lightning had a fantastic run on top of the NHL. 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, winning 2 of them, but it's done for you guys. I'm sorry, your time is up. you're not the powerhouse you used to be. So there's the regular season standings. The top 3 teams in each division move on to the playoffs, and for the first time, I think, since I tried to look it up, I think maybe the 2017 season, I have one wildcard team from each of the 4 divisions. Do I think that's actually going to happen? No, probably not. Did I want some kind of difference and, fun to these predictions? Yes, because they're my predictions. Now that the regular season standings are out of the way, let's take a look at some of the individual player awards from the regular season. Starting off with the Hart Trophy, I think this year's Hart Trophy is going to Nathan MacKinnon. I have Colorado as a juggernaut this season. I put them first in the Central Division. I think they're going to finish second in the league, trailing behind the President's Trophy winners, who I'll get to in a bit. But Nathan MacKinnon is going to be a huge part of that run for the Avalanche throughout the regular season. Next up, the Calder Trophy winner. I've got that going to Ivan Demidov of the Montreal Canadiens, simply for the fact of who's going to stop him. Obviously, we never know how a rookie's going to perform in the NHL until they hit the ice, so any number of the new kids on the block could come in and just light it up this year and steal the Calder, but at this moment in time, as far as I can tell, Demidov has no true competition in that Calder race. Next up, my Vezina Trophy winner, and this one is kind of out of left field, bit of a dark horse pick, Darcy Kuemper of the Los Angeles Kings. Like I said, I've got the Kings going on quite a tear throughout the Pacific Division and the Western Conference this year, and I think Darcy Kuemper's going to lead the charge on that after getting snubbed off of Team Canada in the Four Nations face-off last year and possibly even getting snubbed again in the upcoming Italy Olympics. I think Kemper's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to show Team Canada and the whole NHL that, listen, I'm one of the best goalies in the world, I'm here to play. And the last individual award I'm going to look at is the Rocket Richard Trophy. This actually dovetails into one of my storylines that will 100% happen. I have the Rocket Trophy going to Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. Yes, the greatest goal scorer of all time, statistically speaking. And I say, not only does he win one last Rocket Richard, but that's exactly what it is, one last rocket, as Ovechkin calls it a career at the end of the season and rides off into the sunset, cementing himself as the greatest goal scorer of all time. So that being said, let's take a look at my random storylines that I've come up with. I came up with a few of these myself. I asked some friends and family, just, you know what, give me some absolutely off-the-wall things that you think could potentially go down this season. Here's what we could come up with. So I already said one of them, Ovechkin calls it a career. He retires at the end of the season. Going into the playoffs, he does get one last playoff run with the Capitals. They're unsuccessful, and he ends it off with that Rocket Trophy win. Next storyline I have, similar to John Tavares at the 2014 Sochi Olympics, a top 25 player will be injured at the Milan Olympics and miss considerable NHL time. Obviously, I don't wish injuries on anybody. They're a horrible thing to happen, but this is professional hockey and it gets rough out there. Injuries are incredibly common, and even though the Olympics is a faster, less physical game, I think something's going to go down and someone, a notable name, will be taken out at the Olympics, and Gary Bettman's going to start to question sending his players to the Olympics again. The Calgary Flames, I had them in second last in the Pacific Division. I don't have them doing very well. In fact, I think they fall so far down the standings that at the trade deadline, they deal Nazem Kadri. There's been a lot of talk about trading him recently. They deal him back to his home province to play for the Ottawa Senators. Do I think this is actually going to happen? No, absolutely not. Is it really funny? Yes, and that's all I care about, especially because I have the Sens and Leafs going up against each other in the first round. Speaking of the Leafs, Mitch Marner, I think he nets a hat trick in his return to Toronto, and the Golden Knights just stomp out the Leafs, and Marner gets to do the, well, I never needed you guys dance. Too bad he brought the first round exit gene with him to Vegas, as the Golden Knights are eliminated in the first round by the Kraken. Yeah, I think we're going to get a matchup of those expansion teams, and the Kraken are going to show that, listen, we might be entirely comprised of middle six forwards, but we're here to play. Here's one that is not entirely out of the question, but a lot of pieces have to come together for it to work. Despite a dramatic fall to bottom 3 in the standings in a full calendar year of trade rumors and speculation, Sidney Crosby stays in Pittsburgh and watches as his team secures the first overall pick in the lottery and drafts Gavin McKenna. So in this situation, Crosby obviously he sticks around in Pittsburgh. He's probably not going to win another cup, but he stays and he mentors McKenna as, you know, Mario did for him. Mario and him only played, 25 games together. So Sid's got another year on his deal after this, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head. And he uses that year to kind of mentor McKenna, show him the ropes before he calls it a career. Here's one that is unfortunately plausible, but I hope doesn't happen. Lou Lamoriello gets hired. I don't know by who, I don't know in what capacity, but some team is going to go, oh, Lou's available, and they'll pick him up and add him to their front office. Gary Bettman, I had to throw something in here for our old buddy Jerry. Gary Bettman will tease the idea of doing an in-season tournament, and everybody will hate it. So if you don't pay attention to basketball too much, the NBA recently started doing an in-season tournament where certain regular season games also count towards points in a outside the standings tournament that they play, and then that eventually leads to a tiny playoff bracket. Two teams square off in an in-season finals, and then they win the NBA Cup, which is basically a trophy that they came up with 2 years ago. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's just a little bit of fun competition to make the regular season mean a bit more in the dog days of the winter. Would it be interesting if the NHL did this? Kind of, especially if they introduced special uniforms for these games like the NBA did. Would it work necessarily with a physically demanding sport such as hockey? I don't know. With something more on the line, the players are going to be playing harder, which, that adds to the entertainment factor. It also leads to increased risk of injury. Do we necessarily need that? You gotta weigh the good and the bad. I'm not saying it's a horrible idea. I'm just saying that a majority of people would probably find it dumb. Another prediction here that, will it happen? Maybe not, but I hope so. The Habs will add to their already long list of retired numbers as they put number 31 in the rafters for Carey Price. Carey Price is not officially retired from the game of hockey, but let's face it, his body's in shambles. That 2021 run to the Cup final that he took them on, absolutely magical. They wouldn't have done it without him. It destroyed what was left of his career, unfortunately. At least he got to go to a Cup final, and it would have been nice if he won a Cup. And I know that's funny coming from me, a Leafs fan, saying that, yeah, I hope that a Habs goalie wins the Cup. But Carey Price is a Canadian icon and one of the best goalies of maybe all time, certainly of my generation. But whether he's retired or not, he 100% deserves to have his number put up in the rafters of the Bell Center. One last prediction for you here that kind of tails into our playoff discussion. The Maple Leafs. I had to sneak in something about my Maple Leafs. The Leafs will make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, where they get taken out by the President's Trophy winning Carolina Hurricanes. I teased it a little bit earlier when I was talking about Colorado. I think Carolina is going to show, listen, we're the guys now. We don't necessarily play interesting hockey. The last few years they've made it to the Eastern Final and choked against Florida a lot, like 3 times in a row. But I think this is the time they do it. They punch through, they make it back to the Stanley Cup Final. And in the Stanley Cup Final, they're trying to prove that, yeah, the President's Trophy curse isn't a thing. We can do this. We can be the best team in the regular season and the best team in the playoffs. But they're not going to. No, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to fall in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Final to the Colorado Avalanche. I said I think they're going to be a juggernaut in the regular season. They're going to be the true juggernaut in these playoffs. The Colorado Avalanche I have as the 2026 Stanley Cup champions, with the Conn Smythe Trophy going once again to Cale Makar. Cale Makar is an invaluable member of any team he's a part of, the best defenseman in the league. He's going to prove it in these playoffs, leading the Colorado Avalanche to their 2nd Stanley Cup in 5 years? I should have thought of that number before I said it. But anyway, those are my way too early predictions for the 2025-26 NHL season. Like I said, we're going to look back on this video at the end of next season, see what I got right, what I got wrong, and then you can all laugh at me then. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your predictions down in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup? Who's taking home the Conn Smythe Trophy? Let me know your crazy random storylines that will 100% happen. I would love to hear those. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.